On this episode of Behind the Mic with Nick Morgasen, we sit down with dog rehabilitation specialist Cesar Millan. You might formerly know him as the dog whisperer from his show on National Geographic. And we sit down and we kind of start from grassroots, where he grew up in Mexico and how he started on the farms with all different types of animals and how he gained his ability to kind of get into the mind of dogs. And then eventually we get into all different types of topics. We talk about his methods. He tells me some stories of the show, from the show The Dog Whisperer. And basically, you get to learn also the funny sides of him. And you just get to learn everything about dogs. If you're a dog lover, you want to tune in for this show because you're going to learn everything. Now, let's go behind the mic with Cesar Millan. So you grew up with animals on your grandfather's Sinalia farm, and because of your natural way with dogs, you got the nickname of El Perro, the dog boy. Can you talk about your connection with dogs growing up?
And it's El Perrero. My connection is it was and the environment is actually a very calm environment. You don't just relate with dogs. It was it was chickens, it was pigs, it was donkeys in it. So it's very important to maintain a certain level of calmness in order for all the animals to trust you. So with that understanding and with that way of being, I brought it into the awareness of people around dogs. And as a matter of fact, people around horses are actually very calm. When they introduce themselves around a horse, they don't behave excited. People and dogs, especially people in the city, they do have a tendency to meet a dog with an excited energy first and foremost, and that is actually what creates the hyper behavior in a dog, and eventually a dog that misbehaves.
So at the age of 21, you came to the U.S. and you had your first job as a dog groomer, and you eventually created the Pacific Point Canine Academy, and you actually met Jada Pinkett Smith, who eventually became your first client. Can you tell us about what it was like meeting her and having her as a supporter in the beginning?
Well, in the beginning, I didn't know who she was. I didn't know any actor in the United States. The only one that I knew was Lassie Rin Tin Tin. And, when I met her, it was a client. Later on, one of my friends told me that she was an actress. And then I saw a movie that she did with the Wayans brother. And from that point on, that's all I knew about her. But then she realized, that I had a different approach to dogs, and she obviously liked it. And I asked her, listen, I want to eventually have a TV show or radio, and that's the one that introduced me to a teacher so I can learn English, so I can actually communicate what I wanted to teach.
So you went on to create the Dog Psychology Center in Santa Clarita Valley, which has a sheep herding area, air-conditioned kennels, a swimming pool, and an obstacle course and hiking trails. If I were a dog, I'd be in hog heaven to live in this facility. Can you explain what your goals were when you built this facility?
Well, it's a 43-acre facility, and I am still building a city, where everything is about you learning how to be around dogs and how to introduce dogs. The next thing we're building is a coffee shop. A lot of people want to bring dogs to, Coffee Bean or Starbucks. But a lot of times when the dogs are already in control of the household, they also become in control of wherever they go. So we're going to teach people how to also be in coffee shops, especially after a walk. The dog is tired. Then the dog can learn the rules about how to be in a certain environment. We also have our own dog park, and it's not open for the public. It's actually a place where people learn what the protocol should be to come into a dog park and have the outcome that everybody wants, which is a social interaction, and at the same time the dog, drains energy or practice some kind of running. But most of the time in dog parks, people bring the dogs into a dog park full of physical energy, and that makes a dog eventually go into a fight with other dogs that are at the same level of frustration. So the whole point of the ranch is for people to learn how to walk together, if you see a dog at a distance, learn how to assess and evaluate the situation. So instead of people looking at a dog from a breed, like a lot of people when they see a Rottweiler or a Pit Bull, a German Czech, shepherd coming towards them, people become afraid. And when they see a little dog coming towards them, they actually move towards them. And a lot of times, little dogs are the ones that begin to go after the big dogs. So it's very important that we understand how to introduce a dog in our society with understanding a protocol and, of course, learning how to lead a dog.
So in 2002, you worked with MPH Entertainment, developing that television pilot for Dog Whisperer, a reality series that followed you as you worked in the field of dog rehabilitation. The series eventually premiered in 2004 on the National Geographic Channel. What was your mission that you were trying to accomplish with this show?
Well, my mission, I think we accomplished it, is that I train people to rehabilitate dogs. A lot of times, people are giving up on the dogs, and everybody keeps saying, oh, the dog, and I have a problem with the dog. But what I showcase is the dog had a problem with the human. The human was skipping, the most important things in a dog's life, which is exercise, understanding what to do in society, rules, boundaries, limitations. People misunderstand discipline versus punishment. People gave affection at the wrong time, so that's when I came out with the formula: exercise, discipline, affection, and it allowed me to show people that we didn't have problems with dogs. That the dogs had problems with humans who didn't know how to fulfill their needs, and the dog, because of that, the dog developed issues. And I think we, for 10 years, we accomplished a lot. 120 countries watches Dog Whisperer.
So I'm sure a lot of people have asked you, and I'm quite curious about this also. What was the origin behind the nickname, the Dog Whisperer?
Well, it came out after the Horse Whisperer. And, it says people didn't, I say I don't train dogs, so they couldn't call me a dog trainer. And because I walk with a pack of dogs, they didn't have any title at that time for anybody. Nobody has ever, tried to do a television show about the behavior of dogs and the rehabilitation of dogs and the training of humans, and using a pack of dogs, and especially being Latino. So I guess I inherit the whisper part, and so it was first the Horse Whisperer, and then it was the Dog Whisperer, and then, if you remember, it was the Ghost Whisperer.
So how do you choose the dogs you're going to work with on the TV show? Because I'm sure you get millions upon millions of requests for people to get their dogs on the show.
In the TV show, there is two components. Obviously, is the variation of cases, from aggression to fear to hyperness to obsession and things like that. And also, if the human can tell the story or can actually make you feel different feelings. Some people get upset of people, some people rule for some people, so it's really that has to do with the producers, choosing the people that can be interesting for the audience, and then the dog handlers that I have, they make sure that we have the right cases that are intense enough, for us to show on television.
So let's get into your training methods a little bit. So do you have a routine that you use to train the dogs you work with, and also do you use the same methods for all dogs, or is it different depending on the case?
Well, in the new episodes, you're going to see how I rehabilitated a dog that went after two pigs, actually killed two pigs. And, with that dog who needs to be around pigs, I need to first make sure that I gain his trust, and that he's tired before he meets pigs. And the other dog killed, in the season I won, killed 4 goats. So you have to come up with so many different ways because it's different situations. Some dogs go after dogs. Some dogs go after people. Some dogs go after people on bikes. Some dogs are afraid of water. And so you have to. So what is the same is that I have to gain the trust and respect of the dog. Then how do I convince the dog not to do it again? So that's the technique. But that's that's the secondary part. It's always about gaining the trust, the respect. And then after that, you can start molding the behavior or telling the dog, not to do certain things. And so, and Dog Whisperer was a dog that was obsessed with rocks. His name was Pumpkin. And the lady didn't know. I mean, she used tennis balls. She used food to redirect the dog, and nothing really worked for her. Because there's many, many different methods. So the dog, in a way, in my point of view, the dog shows you and what works for him. So you just have to learn how to listen. It's not only about telling the dog what to do or what not to do. They also tell you how they want to learn.
So, are all the owners receptive to you and your training? Because I was curious because I watched some of the episodes. Or are there some owners that you really have to persuade to actually be convinced that the training is going to work?
My job is almost like the resistance when people want to lose weight, or when they go to the doctor and the doctor tells them they have to change their lifestyle, because the dog is pretty much reacting of the unhealthy lifestyle that they have. So when you tell a person, listen, you have to do more exercise, or you have to be more disciplined, people don't accept change as quick, right? Because they're so used to the same habit, and to them, it's not them. And so that's, of course, every time you tell a person change your lifestyle, it's going to be a resistance, unless the person is at the end of the road and is in a lawsuit, or people that are rock bottom, absolutely, just you tell them what to do and they do it. And when a human is not as bad in a bad situation, those are the ones that fight the most.
So what happens?
Or they resist the most.
So what happens in the extreme cases when the dogs you're training becomes too challenging? Is there a case where it becomes that the dog can't change its ways, or what happens there?
No. Because the dog is not thinking, right? The one is thinking is the human, and a lot of times the human feels like he can't create a confident energy. The fear takes over them, and so. That's what we suggest to the owners. They have to think about, surrendering the dog, and we find them a different home because they can't change. I mean, if you remember the episode with Holly was the a Labrador that bit me, and the owners, but that dog bit many people before, but they had a baby, and so in their mind, if the dog bites, other people, it's going to eventually bite the baby. So the dog was rehabilitated, but they couldn't move forward with the thought that this could happen again.
So the show would become #1 during its first season and was broadcast in more than 80 countries worldwide during its run from 2004 to 2012. What would you say made the show so successful in your opinion?
Well, I think that we brought a different perspective, that we brought some, because it's not only people that have dogs that watch the show, it's people who are afraid of dogs. It's people who don't have dogs, but it's life lessons in the show. I mean, if you adopt exercise, discipline, affection, that's pretty much what all sports people do. If you adopt calm and assertive energy, that's what Oprah does on TV shows. So it's a lot of things that you can bring outside the dog-human relationship and adopt it. And, a lot of people use it with their kids. I mean, South Park did an episode on me about rehabilitating Carmen. So it's very similar and helpful to have a certain kind of energy and understanding instincts, and learning the word fulfillment, fulfilling the needs of others. And so I think it did not just relate it to people with dogs. It related to the rest of the world who don't have dogs. Now I do seminars in Malaysia. I do seminars in Indonesia, with 80% of the population is Muslims, and by religion, petting a dog is not part of what they do. But they love the show, and so people are more intrigued about learning how do I make a dog that I just met, do what they do.
And actually, I do appreciate what you do, because I was actually afraid of dogs when I was a lot younger. And after I watched your show, it actually gave me a little more confidence to go up to dogs and actually be more confident around them, actually.
You see, before I came, to America, everybody was thinking training the dog. Everybody's thinking as the breed. And I said, well, wait a minute, don't skip one part, which is energy. Because and then people who are afraid of dogs will never had a chance to change that perspective. And so, like exactly what you said, people who were afraid of dogs, when you're afraid, maybe a traumatic situation happened and you don't know why it happened, and then when you start getting knowledge, the fear goes away and the understanding, which creates confidence, kicks in. So then from that point on, your energy changes, your approach changes, your understanding changes. So that's why the show became so successful. And it's not only because I rehabilitated dogs and people find hope, and of course, they see a dog lover, going, who comes from pretty much a street knowledge. I don't have a degree, from college or whatever. But I understand animals. I understand dogs, and so I just put it in a very simple perspective. With everybody can learn.
So in 2009, you launched Caesar's Way magazine in the USA and Canada as the editorial director. How much of a different mindset was it to write articles and features for the magazine compared to doing this for your TV work?
Well, every time I have more time to explain things. I think I can break it down a lot better. I can tell the story, versus television. You shoot for 3 months and you tell like 3 seconds. When it's a magazine, you can make it. A lot of people ask questions, and you can be more direct to that person and give examples and and things like that. We're used to read things, and we're used to imagine things through reading. So when it's TV, you often think it's magic or is editing. So it doesn't become real in your mind. It's just you become like, whoa, or you say, no way in the world. And when you're reading something, you can see how things are broke down.
So as I was doing research on your show, and I love watching your show over the years, and I came across your documentary series, Cesar Millan's Leader of the Pack, on the Nat Geo Wild channel. You gave families the opportunities to compete for a dog each week to go to a well-balanced home. Whose idea was it to do this documentary series?
Well, it was a combination. I wanted to show compatibility. To me, it's like, okay, many families go to a shelter and see the same dog, right? But nobody ever documented that. People know that, but they've never seen it. So why would I bring 3 families and give it to one family only? Because for me, it was about compatibility. I'm going to teach the other 2 families which energy is compatible to them, and why I didn't give them dog, or why I feel that this is not the right dog. I do this for a lot of people. I pick the right energy dog for them, and that becomes a forever dog in the house. A lot of people pick the wrong dogs. So if you remember Marley and Me, those 2 journalists, went and picked up a dog. They eventually became destructive behavior. It became, a movie and a bestseller, but that's not what happened to all dogs. Most dogs are returned to a shelter, euthanized, or they put under medication. But those people chose the wrong energy. And in my case, I wanted to show what's the right energy, what's the right approach. One is when the dogs say, "I respect you from the beginning," and so that was part of what I want to showcase.
So in 2014, you premiered a new series called Cesar 911, also on the Nat Geo Wild channel. You actually go around to different neighborhoods to protect people from misbehaved dogs. Do you have to handle these situations differently because a whistleblower could call rather than the actual owner calling for help, like on the Dog Whisperer show?
Well, when people are not asking for your help, they don't think they need help. And when you come in and all of a sudden you're there and all these cameras are there, people can become a little hostile. People can become a little apprehensive. People can say, "I don't need you," and it makes it more challenging. But that's the reason is when you are in a bad situation, normally you're not the one that calls, other people call. And so that's what we call a 911. It's just, it's instead of the members of the family, now it's the pack around you. The family members, the neighbors saying, you need an intervention. We need to do something about it. We're here to support. So it takes a village to raise a child, and I wanted to make sure that the whole community, I already did the family with Dog Whisperer. I want to make sure the whole community is involved. You as a neighbor can also trigger good or bad reaction on a dog. So how do we do that? How do we all help one dog in a community?
So you're actually getting ready to promo your new season of Cesar 911, which premieres Friday, February 19th at 9/8 Central on the Nat Geo Wild channel. And you have a very special guest on the first episode. Can you talk about that?
That is Jerry Seinfeld, that which is for everybody is an honor, and of course for me it's an honor. And when you do a show with a comedian, you barely stop laughing. I mean, it's always super funny. Everything he says and does is extremely funny. I mean, he lives in a situation where he doesn't understand why the dog, and his words, hates him. When the world loves him, and that to me that's a funny line that he said. And he had 2 dachshunds. one, he can't stop from barking, and the other one, he can't stop from running away from him. And he's been living like this for a few years. And I met Jerry in Santa Barbara years ago. I went to see his stand-up comedy, and he said, "You know what? I need you. You have to come to New York." And so we talk about it, and then he said, "You know what? I don't care if I'm in your TV show. I need your help." And so now people get to see how we help Mr. Jerry Seinfeld, and he never actually walked a dog before, so I took him to Central Park, and I showed him how to walk a dog properly, how to pass by dogs properly, because his dogs will go after other dogs. This is your classic little dogs that bark at every single dog that passes by in Central Park. And can I say one last thing? I'm very proud. I'm very happy that I'm not just premiering a TV show. Also, my two kids have a TV show. Calvin, who is my little one, is not long the little one. He doesn't like me to say that. He's 17. He has a show on Nickelodeon, Mutton Stuff, with the Kraft brothers. We're very proud of it. And then Andre, who's my 21-year-old, has a show on National Geographic, which is Pet Talk. So here is to my two boys and myself. We are on the same day. So here's to Dog Dynasty.
So Cesar 911 premieres Friday, February 19th at 9 p.m.
Yep.
On Nat Geo Wild. And you have Jerry Seinfeld as your first guest. Cesar, thanks for joining me, and I learned a lot today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.